Hello and welcome to week 6. This week we're going to be talking about moral hazard and also reviewing for your upcoming midterm. So what is moral hazard? Moral hazard can be defined as a tendency for having insurance against a loss to reduce your incentive to prevent or minimize the cost of that loss. You can distinguish between two kinds of hazards. There are natural hazards, lightning strikes, a freak accident, and then there are moral hazards. Those are the things that result from carelessness or fraud, but things that happen as a result of decisions made by human beings. So this video, we're going to talk about what moral hazard means. In the context of health insurance, moral hazard is when people who have insurance take a risk with their health that a similar uninsured person might not take. And it can also be when you demand more expensive healthcare treatments from your doctor whenever you get sick because you have insurance. So an example, my friend lost his health insurance and was saying, like, now I have to look both ways before I cross the street. And it's like, Ryan, you probably should have been doing that regardless. But perhaps when he had health insurance, he felt he was able to take that risk and wasn't so careful when crossing the street. That would be an example of moral hazard. Moral hazard is kind of like the downside of health insurance because it raises overall society's amount of healthcare spending. So there are two kinds of moral hazard that I described earlier. One of them is ante moral hazard. This is like behavior change that occurs before the loss. So like the example of my friend Ryan, taking a risk, leaving the stove on, skipping the flu vaccine are these. An ex post moral hazard is a change in behavior that happens after the loss. So after you get a particular diagnosis, let's say, the tendency to demand more expensive medical care because you have insurance is an example of ex post moral hazard.